Now, if I'm creating just like a website, I'm going to have a public folder where I want to put my images and my CSS and my JS, and stuff in that folder needs to be served. So I'm going to create a public folder. And I'm going to call this first, though, I'll just call it pub, okay, to illustrate something. And then inside there, I could have like a folder for CSS.
Inside the public folder.
Sure, yeah, like everything in here will be served. And I could have one in here for images, okay? And I could go get my nice little dog image off of Wikipedia. And dog wiki. And there's no internet connection. I don't know why. I've got it in my directory. I think we have it right here. Well, there's a whole bunch of stuff there. Sir file, it's in here, Toby. There's a image, dog. And then I could put in here like a CSS file, main. And then I could also create a directory for my templates. And then I create my main.go for my code. And then inside templates, I'll create like, well, cancel that. Let's try this one. New HTML file, index.go HTML. I think that then adds HTML at the end of it, which I got to pull off. There we go. All right, and if I wanted to, I could do like, you know, let's try this, includes header footer, and put that there, and this is going to be HTML. And then include my Go HTML at the end of it. My computer is like starting to take off. Cool. And so I could take this include here. How do I define a template? Do I remember? Define, and then what? Quotes. And then in. So I've just defined a template. Bow! And can I do more on this page like this? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can. You're right. And so now here is my index page, right? Cool. And if I wanted to, I could create links between a whole bunch of different pages. That might be kind of interesting to do. So if I had a couple of pages, right, and this one would be just index. We'll just call it index. And then on index, we're going to have a couple of links. So that's navigation. Is there an HTML tag that we'd want to use for navigation? No. It's hot in this room again. Command Shift. So there's a nav, and then on my nav, how would I go about creating links? Like if I want some links, what I use? Unordered list. Okay, and then what else am I there? List item, and then what else? Anchor. And can I do anything else with Emmet here?
Can you do, I think
Attribute, href is equal to
href equals and then put a hash in or something so that they're already ready.
pound. Yeah. And I want a couple of LIs. Let's do like 4. And is that everything? Is that the right Emmet?
I think so.
Does that look good? That looks pretty good. And so we're going to have index, about, contact, and what's the other one? Okay, browse, apply. Cool. And maybe we should do one more apply process. allow us to play some stuff. Okay, so that's pretty cool. And then we just need to change these routes. So what would I put here for the route to get to index? How's the routing work and go? I say whatever, right? Hey, when you go to index at my server, we're going to run a certain chunk of code. And when we go to about, a different chunk of code. And when we go to contact, a different chunk of code. And when we go to apply, a different chunk of code. And then here, apply process. That's kind of weird. I'm going to process something. I think instead of having this one, what I kind of want to do is have a form that could be clicked so we could see that, oh, we had a post submission. I'm going to take that one out. And now let's do a form. So what do I do for a form? What's the HTML? What's the first tag? Yeah. Form. And action, where do I want this to go? I'll send it to apply. And my method will be post. Sweet. And then what? Really? I'm going to keep it bare bones. And I'm going to go, what's the element we use for forms? Is it, what do we do if we just want a button and a field for people to enter stuff? Input? Type text? Do I need anything else? But for this one, for text, what else might I need so I could, if I wanted to be able to capture the text? A name. Why a name?
So that you can reference that.
Yeah, so first name, right? And so that will be the identifier to which the value that the person has entered in this form field is assigned when it gets to our form. And that's going to be in, when it gets sent from this browser to the server, that's going to be in the request body, right? Because it's post. Otherwise, it'd be in the URL if it was get, the method. So there's input type text, and now input type submit, right? And then that's it. And we don't need the value from that, so forget having a name. And what's another nice one to use? Label. And this is for, right? And we'll just put first name. And then we have to give this an ID. So IDs are for targeting. You know, in CSS, HTML, JavaScript, we're targeting this element here. And we're saying this element is connected to this element. So that looks pretty good. I like it. And I'll put my / right here. But now I need about, contact, and apply page. About. Contact. Apply. And here's apply. Here's contact. Here's about. All right, so we have main CSS. We have about. We have contact. We have apply. We have our headers. I have an index, and there's index. Cool. So I want to be able to open, up index, and then be able to click through to go to about, contact, apply. On apply is probably the one where we should have the form. So I'm going to take that out of everything and just, that's on apply right there. But I'll take it out of this one. So we only see the apply on the apply page. That makes sense, right? And so we'll get rid of that on every other page. And then we have our includes. Uh-oh. What did we mess up? We need to do our includes, right? How do we include our header and footer? All right. This is fun. You guys having fun? Is this serving you well? Are you sweating yet? I didn't get my workout today or this week. Okay. All right, so that all looks pretty good. And do we want to include any CSS? Any styling at all? Maybe we'll come back and do that. Just to make sure it works, let's just target our H1.
Did you put the menu on every page?
Menu on every page?
Did you put that menu?
Yeah, it's on every page. Yeah.
How come you didn't use the template for the menu and then?
Whoa, I like it. So that's going to make the text color red. Okay. And then to include that, we have to go to our header. And we have to do, where do we put our CSS? How do we link to it? Link. And where's that going to be for our CSS? What's going to be the path? So let's say public /CSS /main.css, right? What's trippy about that? Well, this is public and this is pub. Okay, so we're going to write in our server, our router, anything that comes in at public, serve it from the pub folder. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. And we're going to have to strip off public because it's going to just go and look in the public folder, and then we want it to just, when it's inside the public folder, look in that, right? So we're going to say look in the public folder, strip this off, right? And so if you've stripped that off, what's left is this. And when you're looking in the public folder, can you find that? Yeah, we can find that. It's right there, right? CSS.
What's the purpose of doing it that way?
I don't know. Maybe it'll become more clear. Let's not go too deep. Because you're saying serve from this folder.
But why not just call it public and reference public? What's the point of stripping off in this instance?
Because we're saying, that's a great question. And it's a little bit hard one to answer, so I was only partly joking when I said we'll do it later. We're saying anything that comes in at this route, serve it, right? Well, we got to have something that handles it. So we want everything in public to be served, right? So anything that comes in at public / is what will be our route when we set our route with handle func or whatever, right? With our routing. Anything that comes in at public will be handled, and we're going to say serve everything in the public folder. We don't want everything here served, everything here served. We don't want people to see all of our code. We just want everything in this folder served. So if we say, hey, something came in here, right? And when that comes in, serve everything in the public folder. To find this path in the public folder, I have to have a folder public, and then inside that another folder public. Because it's going to look in this folder for this file. So it's a bit trippy. That's all right. Strip prefix is confusing, and that's confusing. You don't have to totally worry about it. You just need to be able to be like, okay, that's how you use it. And for a long time, it confused me, and it just takes a while. So just know how to use it. But so there's our link. So you had a great point, which was like, let's put all this into our into some sort of a template, right? So that's header and footer includes. So I'm just maybe going to create a new file and do includes, and I could just call it nav main. Okay, and it's what? It's just a text file. Oh, and I need to do .go HTML. Cool. And then inside here, fine. I'm going to do define, and we'll call this nav main and in. guess maybe nav main is kind of weird, but I want it that way because I have multiple navs. And there we go. Thanks. And now I could do here, template, nav, main. Our code's getting dry. Our code's, it's getting dry in here. All right, so that all looks pretty good, right? Cool, so let's do this part. Now, do you want me to do it, or do you all want to do it, and then I'll show you? I could push this up to GitHub, and then you could take over from here. Or do you want me to do it all, and then you're going to do it all, or do you just want me to do it, and then we're going to move on? Okay. Do it and move on. You?
Yeah, do it and then we can go through it and
Patrick? Alex? So we have 3 saying try it. Ugh. All right. What do I need to do? You tell me. Get this thing working. Just look at the screen.
Am I allowed to look at my
No.
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 Oh.
What's that mean? Template. What's that mean? What's that mean?
Template is like the folder that holds the other template. That's how I think of it. Is that
This is package,
okay?
and that is a type in that package. It's type template from package template. And which one would I want to choose? What's the difference? Yeah, HTML, right? Text is just for text. HTML has web safe escaping. All right, so that's that. What's the next thing I do? Font. Oop, I don't need to do that. I just do that. Oop, that's not it. There we go. And what am I doing here?
You're assigning
TPL to something. Assigning a value to TPL.
parts, bus, and then template dot parts block the file. And then we path where it goes.
Right? I mean, there's only going to be Go HTMLs in there. Includes nav main, needs it. Cool? What's next? Does this, should I do it like this? Or like this?
Is that where I put the where do we put the script prefix?
Serving files. With our file server.
It wouldn't matter, right? It would.
Server
So we
file.
don't have to put anything about script prefix in the main.go file.
Oh yeah, no, this is where we set it up
Yeah.
in main. All right, so what, but what's the difference between this and this? Will that work?
Yes.
Why?
Because it no matter where you enter the site from, it'll find it. It'll just go to it.
Yeah, so it's an absolute reference, relative reference, right? And relatively, this is the same here as absolute. And we'll try it, because you never know. And I'm not perfect, but that's kind of the way I think of it too. And that's the way I learn, is to ask myself those questions and then try it and see what happens. So what do we have to do to make this work? What's the first thing you type in here?
Is it?
Okay, so let's start with that. I like that. That's where I like starting, actually. And listen and serve is going to take in :8080 and nil, right? So listening in port 8080. What's the nil mean?
Oh, you're using the default.
Using default serve mux. Yeah, right. And so we don't have to go, new serve mux, and then use handle and handle func attached to something which is of type go.div internet, yeah, net HTTP.
Why would you use, and why would there be a circumstance when you would use?
I've got internet. So index and serve mux, type serve mux. New serve mux gives us a pointer to serve mux. We can use handle and handle func. All right, and then it has serve HTTP, which implements the handler interface. So listen and serve wants us to pass in an address and a handler, so we could create a serve mux and pass that in as the handler. Or if we pass in nil, that means nil, in which case default serve mux is used. So, cool, default serve mux, and then what's the next thing? We're going to use handle funcs, right? So, handle func, take a pattern, and then a value of this type, a function with response writer and pointer to request. So HTTP handle func, and we'll have some pattern, and then we'll have some function. Right? So one function will be index, and these can be called anything.
Do you not need to put a forward slash?
I call them IDX, maybe just to do it. And we need index, we need about, we need contact, and we need apply. And I'm just going to shorten these a little bit so that you know that it's not some special word. Okay? A book. Does that make sense why I'm doing that? So if something comes in at index, then we'll handle it. If something comes in at about, then we'll handle it. If something comes in at contact, then that's what handles it. If something comes in at apply, then that's what handles it. And I don't need that one. That looks pretty good. Now I need to create those functions. So IDX, and it's going to have what? How do servers work? All right, and then
Response writer and then request.
okay, and cool. So something comes in here, goes there. What do we want to do on this one? Let's handle index.
I had a question.
Sure, what's your question?
About that. Would there be any way, like, to take all of those functions, the IDX, about, all four of those, and then
So you're wondering if we could take those four,
Instead of
and make
having a
them
funcs.
response writer for each an HTTP.
abstract that out somehow? Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Would you have to make them visible outside of the function?
But don't go for code brevity over readability. Choose clarity over cleverness, and that's Go programming. If you're going to write a program and you could do it in like 100 lines less, but it's going to be really like, what the hell is going on there? Don't do that. Write those extra 100 lines so that some person who's had like one introduction to Go programming class and is a sophomore computer science person could come in and be like, oh, I know what's going on there. So you might be able to, somehow like abstract that into one function that takes in certain things.
But this is a perfectly acceptable way of doing it. It's not considered to be not dry enough or anything.
To me, it's perfectly acceptable. it's good. And you might abstract these into different files, you know, so that you have things broken into, hey, this is the file for this stuff, that's the file for that thing.
Yeah, okay.
So you might think about different ways
Because
you could organize.
each function is going to be slightly different, so.
A lot of them are going to be the same. So what's the next thing we do? There's, you know, basically, you know, a line here. One main thing we want to do on this one. What is it?
We have to reference the templates, execute.
Yeah, TPL, execute, template, writer, template name is going to be index.go HTML, HTML, and nil. No data is being passed down. Okay, so execute template, writer, the name of the template, execute, and whether or not we're passing in any data. Cool. So that's going to be pretty similar here. Except here we're going to have about. Here we're going to have contact. And here we're going to have apply. Right, which is going to execute these different templates. And just looking at execute template, what's it return? Returns an error. So
Do we do if error not equal to nil?
yeah. I think I might have make sure that's all right. And let me launch my terminal.
Put what your error is somewhere.
So I just navigated to this directory 05, and I ran go funct dot // to format my code. And there my code's formatted.
Okay, this might be a silly question.
What's the question?
Where you did the log print line error.
Yeah.
How does it know what to put to print the error? Is that just built into Go?
Yeah,
If you
template.
do that, it writes an error in your.
Yeah, so what is error? And let's go to package errors. Okay. And new text string gives an error, so we can look at error. And now we're at package built-in and type error.
Okay.
So type error is an interface and has one method which returns a string. Okay, so anything which is an error in Go has a method called error, right, which is capitalized, so that's visible outside whatever package it's in. Has a method called error that when it runs, it returns a string. The error built-in interface type is the conventional interface for representing an error condition with the nil value representing no error. And so, let me just see what else I want to say. So if we come back here to godoc.org errors, and we could take a moment just to explore this, because I think this is a good thing to explore, is we saw that type error is in package built-in, right? So this is built in to the language, and we have type error. There it is. And it's an interface that has this method, right? So it returns a string. And if we come over here and package errors, and this is the standard library, there's not much here. There's new. And new takes a string and returns an error. Well, what do you think new is going to do? Let's take a look at what new does. New takes in a string, right? And then it returns an arr string with text. What's arr string? Arr string is a struct, and it adds just one field with text. It's not exported. But arr string has this method attached to it. Anything with that method attached to it, which interface does it implicitly implement? What is that signature right there? Does it look familiar to this?
The error integer.
Arr string, arr string. Anything with that method is of type arr and go. So this arr string here has that method. So that means that anything which is type arr string is also implementing the arr interface from the built-in package, which means it's of type arr in the Go programming language, right? And so that's an arr. And so an arr is just something that returns a string. And the string is basically, here's your arr. Right? Like, it's this.
There are different errors, so how does it know which error?
It's just different strings, right? Different like error messages added into that string.
And all the different errors are built into Go, are they? Depending on what the error is.
Yeah. So let's look at that for a second. But here, new, when we call that, we pass in a string. It just creates that struct with the string, has this method attached to it. This method will return that string, right, when it's used. And so there's the error. So if you wanted to, we could play at that, Golang playground. And let's take a little diversion here. Errors new. Okay, so from package errors. So my error is going to be equal to errors new returns an error, right? So my error is errors new, and errors new wants a string Cool. And now what happens when I call errors new and I give it that string? It's going to take that string and it's going to give me a type arr string, which is a struct, and it's going to populate that one field in that struct, right? Composite literal here. So the type, and then the curly braces, and then the values to populate the fields or the data structure. All right, so it puts that error in there, and then this method is attached, makes it of type error, and then I'm assigning that to here. So that is now an error. So I have an error. Print line my error.
Okay, so I guess that partly answers my question, but so the reason I asked that question was because in the other code, the template code that we were working on before, you didn't put what would happen if there was an error. There's no error equals errors.new and then any kind of string in there.
If errors, okay, so where does this error come from? Cool. So execute template, it returns an error, right? Right here, type error.
Right.
And here, look up an escape template. If that blows up, it gives me this error and it returns that error. So what is look up an escape template? Look up an escape template is right here, and it returns this error if there's an error. And that's because it ran escape template. What is escape template? Escape template, gives me this error, which is var error error. And so there's error. And so if it returns it, it's going to be if C error is not equal to nil. So if there is an error, right? I don't know exactly.
Oh, I think I get it more now.
Right, and here it's an ampersand error, and we are in escape.go, and error is a type somewhere in here it's a struct, it looks like, and it's got error in context nil. Like it ends in a non-text context, but it's basically giving me some context back about that error, right? Giving me a string. And so I could look to see where this is. And there's my error struct in this error.go. And it's got error code, and I am in package template. Right? So this is kind of the error struct for package template where I've added fields in. And so when that was used, right, it's all this stuff. And that struct is going to have that method attached to it somewhere to make it an error. So, somewhere. There's the method attached to it that makes it an error. So it's kind of nuts, but you sort of see how it works.
Yeah, I think I get it.
And that's like a higher level of abstraction, you know, and you have to really kind of pop around between the different things and drill down. And that's probably ultimately how you should be writing your code, because those are the people who are the black belts. But that doesn't help you much if you're still white and yellow belt or blue, green belt, not even brown belt yet. You're like, whoa, that's a lot of like popping around between things.
I don't even have a belt yet.
Yeah, yeah. So, but you know, you kind of got the concept a little, and that's the important part. And you kind of get it that an error is just a string, a message we're sending back. But one thing that pops up with me, and I really like this conversation about errors, is that at the net HTTP package, there's my email address and the message from Matt, if anybody wants to know a little bit about my private life. What was that? The net HTTP package.
Who did that Matt get back to you? Was it helpful?
Yeah, yeah, we're talking, and we might get together. Probably going to get together. We're just trying to organize the time. Thanks. So here, you know, what do we have that's in net HTTP that's just kind of, you know, and here we have error, response writer, error string, and some code, right? So we want to send the error back to the client. You know, here's response writer, error string, and some code. So let's try that. So instead of just logging it, maybe I want to log it, and so it ends up in my server too, right? But I could do now HTTP error, and it wants the response writer, and then it wants some error string and a code. An error string and a code. So the string might be internal server error, and the code would be HTTP internal status internal server error 500, right? HTTP 500. And so can you see that? Is it the wrong color? And then if I pop it open, it's 500. And so then I could duplicate this. And interestingly, right, like right now my function just returns. So my function's done. But what would happen if you know, like right here we had something else like just funct print line, you know, we got here, right? Or better yet, come down here. So will we see that print line? So that'll be an interesting little experiment. So let's play with that, and we're just going to take the if out. We'll comment the if out, and that way this we'll just do it like that. That way, no matter what, we're running our error. Oh, but no, that means we might not have an error. All right. So I need to be able to get an error. So what would cause this to error? If there's no template, right? So we're not going to have index.gohtm. It'll be like, I can't find that error, internal server error. Do you think we'll get to we got here, line 31? Yeah. All right, so let's look at this. I'm going to leave it running for a second, and let's see what happens. See what we left out. And how do I get this to run? Go run main, not go.
I thought that was a trick question.
Well, you know, because I'm also doing app engine stuff. In my head, I go run, go app serve, go app deploy. Panic template about Go HTML, unexpected, unterminated quote string, and template clause. So about has some kind of quote or something or missing, and I need double quotes. The compiler is your friend, right? Like, you messed it up, fix it before we go live. I'm not going to even compile until you get this to go live. Compiler's static, that's static type checking. That's why you like Go better than dynamic. It's your friend. I wish I'd studied comp sci. I think I've left it out of all of them. I'm studying it now. I'm getting better.
Just because you didn't go to university doesn't mean you're not studying it.
Yeah, I went to university, but I went as a teacher.
I know you went to university. But
No, I know. I mean, I never studied. Thank you. All right, let's try again. Cool. Localhost 8080. 404 page not found. So what did we do wrong? Maybe
that internal server error.
well, I think I just need to let it ramp up. Or maybe we did something wrong.
Well,
We're getting errors on it.
maybe internal
Here's Voodoo
server
Computing.
error is a
Will that do
different
it?
error.
All right, so it's not finding anything. Let's. Oh, you know what we did wrong? You tell me. Where is it? What page is not found? What's funky about line 17? The answer is line 17 through 20. What's wrong? There's some funky stuff there that's like, what's wrong with this picture? Like coding school, what's wrong with this picture?
Okay, is it to do with the path?
Yeah, because
So
index
because-
need. We went to this. There's nothing catching that. We had this cat caught, all right, but it needs to be like this. And then here I want to do that. So let's run it now. Cool. Index, about, contact, apply. Like, that's really sweet, right? Like, we've kind of bare-boned the structures of a website with Go, and we understand it all, and you're not far from doing it. Just like, oh, I could code that out. And now you could create the basic, you know, mom-and-pop corner store backend for a website. Static, in terms of like, you aren't connecting it to a database yet. But we're not far from that. I mean, at one level, it's like, whoa, that took a lot of learning for us just to get to there. But you've learned a programming language in, 3 months. We're in week 14, 15, 14 of the semester. And you've learned,
So which bit in that? Can we look at that main.go? I just want to see the strip prefix bit again.
well, we haven't done strip prefix yet.
That's what I thought.
We'll get there. We haven't done the serve file. And look, hey, we got here. That's interesting.
Why does it keep saying it over and over again?
I don't know. Let's see what happens. That's a good question. Index 3, about 2, contact 2, apply 2. So why are we getting multiples when we click this?
Is it because we have to put something in the main.go that tells us to quit?
How can we find out?
Is it, oh. No. It's not because it's grabbing multiple templates.
How can we find out what routes are being requested?
What do you mean?
Like, what's the path that's being asked
We know
for?
what routes are being requested because it's all in front main, isn't it?
Do we?
No?
Because this catches everything, so we kind of want to know, right? So can we do right above we got here, which is being what's printed out. Let's do format print line, and if we go back and we look at our request, So you guys look it up and tell me what to put in. Okay, you go look it up. I'll look it up too, but you're looking it up, and then let's.
Let's request URL.path.
Thank you. Yeah, and the way we got there is type request, and here URL specifies the URI being requested or the URL to access. What's the difference between URI or URL? There's URI and URN, and URI plus URN is equal to URL. URI is Uniform Resource Identifier. URLN is Uniform Resource Name. And when you have a URI and a URN, it's URL. I think that's right. I have like 80% certainty on that. Basically, URI and URL are interchangeable, right? But there's a little bit of a so you know, this gives us the URL asked for. And if we say, oh, it's of this type, that's a struct that has path, right? And so we could say right here, print line request.url.path, and that's going to give us a string. And so we're going to print that out. Now let's run it again. So do you know the answer of why that's printing out multiple times? Not yet? Yeah. I've been here. Whoa. See, it's this one that just hit. Chrome is like, well, let me make sure all my other tabs are up to date. It gave me this. It said, give me this path, and then it ran, we got here. And then it said, give me my CSS, because that's in there. And it says, we got here. And then it says, give me my fave icon, and we got here. Right? Because this route right here catches everything that isn't more specifically matched. And so, you know, that got caught by it. Hey, give me this. This got caught by that. So how do we get rid of our fave icon? Have we done that?
Yeah.
So if you didn't have that / that catch-all, and you just had index, you got an error before, didn't you, when that happened? Why is that then?
Oh, because and now if I just go to /, and I know that I haven't restarted my server, but if I just go to /, I'll restart it. Right? When I go to /, there's no path in my server that catches that. So it's like, I don't have that. What is catching that?
I can't get my head around why that is.
What's catching that? Any of those? Because /, a trailing / catches stuff beyond that point. So right here, I'm only going to serve index. But if I have this, I'll serve index / something / another thing / right? So that this little / says capture anything that comes in at / index and anything else down the line in the path. Right? So if I don't have this, which catches anything that comes in at just nothing, just the domain name, and everything down the line, because that's the trailing / right there. If I don't have that, then stuff which, you know, doesn't match, like if I only have this, and then I ask to go to
but what I don't get is
index, nothing catches that.
Does match. So if index does
How does we're not talking about file names. We're just talking about here. There's my domain, and I'm asking for that. I have not put in index. If I put in index, it matched, right? Because that's what I asked for right here. It's running on that. That's what I asked for right there. But when I ask for this, there's no match. Can't find that. Woo, good, she got it. Penny dropped. Girl works all day.
Took me a while, but it dropped.
All right, so we're going to leave it like that to catch everything. All right, cool. So how do we handle not showing our favicon? Say, not found. We have a special not found handler, and that not found handler is not found right here.
Does it matter about icon? What difference does it make?
Not found handler. And it returns a handler. And we also have not found right here. It takes a response writer and a request. What?
What difference does it make if it looks for the favicon and there isn't one there? Does it matter?
It doesn't, but it's good to handle everything that's coming into your server instead of just 404ing people just saying, I know you asked for favicon, we don't got it.
Okay.
You know, you don't want to just be sending 404s back.
So it's just good practice.
Good practice. All right, so how would we implement the not found? Do we use not found or not found handler?
Not found handler.
So not found handler's down there, and it returns a handler, but it doesn't take anything. So how do I set that up?
You do HTTP.handle.
Because handle takes a handler, right? So I could do
Oh yeah, http.handle and
handle / favicon dot ico,
That's it, yeah.
and then
And
HTTP not found handler.
And then you need quotes around the top.
Oh, now I understand what that does. Got it.
What's screwed up?
Just one quote.
You've got
One
two
quote.
quotes on the right.
There we go. So let's run it again. And bring up our web page.
Oh, I get that now. That makes sense.
We got here, and now it's asking for my CSS. And every time it's going to ask for my CSS, right? I'm getting 2 each time.
So do we need to do that with CSS then? The not found handler.
Well, eventually we want to serve our CSS.
Okay.
Now answer this. How come here I get only 1? Right? 1 each time. You see that? Only 1's coming up. On apply, contact, and about.
Yeah.
Yet when I hit index,
Because the reference to the CSS is in the index file.
yeah, because when I'm well, no, because when I ask for, because every time CSS is asked for, this catches it.
Yeah.
So it runs this one, and we got here. So if I ask for this, well, it goes. If I ask for about, it goes for this, executes that template, which asks for CSS, which runs this, right? Which then says we got here and only does it once. But when I ask for index, it runs it for both index and for the CSS. So that's why I get it twice, because I've only put that in index. That's why. You know, right?
Yeah,
But like
yeah.
understanding what your code's
Yeah,
doing
Got it.
is the point of that.
So if you put that in all of them, it would give you 2 on all of them.
Yeah. It's fun, huh? Can you believe it's 7 o'clock already?
I'm glad you did that because that's some things that I'd forgotten about suddenly make more sense.
It's because you guys don't do any work on Go from the time we leave here on Wednesday till the
I
time.
do.
Oh, you do? Good.
I do, yeah.
Good. It's for whatever reason, yeah, it took me a long time to learn it myself.
I don't have a whole lot of time to do it, but I do do so.
Cool. I'm glad to hear that. I didn't mean that in a demeaning way. All right, so we left off with 1 to throw an error. And let's see what happens when we throw an error, okay? So we're not going to find that because that doesn't exist. So we're going to get an error, which is going to make this run. We're going to log our error, and let's put log. I love the sound of sirens. Makes me think like of a New York TV show.
I don't like the sound of sirens because then I think something bad's happening somewhere.
Yeah, but that's reality. You just gotta pretend it's like a TV show or a movie, and you're being entertained. In reality, you're right. It's not a good deal. I went to farmer's market today right before class, and I went to get a cup of coffee, and she's like, "Oh, I'm going to have to throw that out anyhow. You don't have to pay me." She gave me coffee free. Just for the right amount, too. Not too much caffeine. So that's just my log. And we use log print line instead of func print line because, you know, if we're going to log something, then we could direct that log to a different location. Instead of just standard out, we could say write it to this file. So we could always be writing our logs somewhere and keeping track of them on the server. So log, and then we do an internal HTTP error. And then do you think we'll get to this stuff?
We'd have a special logged file, would we, that would keep a record of all
Yeah.
our errors.
Yeah. And do you guys want to explore that a little bit? But let's explore this first. So Control C, and now go run, and bring this up, and then go to home, and we logged. We logged HTML template index go HTML is undefined. This was the path, right? So after we logged that, it then did this and put internal server error and wrote that back here, right? And then we came down, we left this block, and we came down here and we ran this stuff. And we printed out the request path, and we got here. So let's just prove, right, that this is kind of what's happening. And just so you can kind of see it, cement it in, we'll run it once more. And I'm just going to launch a new page and do localhost. Look, see, it already tried to go there. Just started to do that. That's pretty interesting. I don't know what it may. I guess it asked for fav icon, but that would have been the not found handler. Let's just clear that out. Pretend like that didn't happen. There we go. Pa-boom. Right? And now log is undefined, and we have internal server error. All right, so that's where that came out. And we got here, it still ran. So after this, if you're doing this, what would you want to do? Return. Stop executing this function and return out of it.
So that it doesn't print
Yeah.
what we got here.
Yeah, like don't run the code down below. Now, would you need that if this code wasn't here? No, same effect, but good practice.
Okay.
Wasn't that awesome?
Yeah, but why did it not print the path?
It did.
Requested path. It did print the
Yeah.
requested path.
See
Where?
that / above we got there? We got here. I don't know what that crap is right there. That's just my
Yeah, but
keystrokes.
that's not the requested URL path.
That's what I
just the-
requested. I just went to. I went to this. What are you missing?
Can you go back to the main.go page? There's something I'm not getting.
So if we have an error, it's going to run this, it's going to run this, and it's going to return from this function. It's done in this function. It's leaving the function. It never gets to this. If you return out of the function, you're done in that function.
But the front print line request URL path is different from the front print line we got here, isn't it? Or is it connected?
Which front print line? Oh,
There's
that
two
one right
front
up there?
print lines there. There's one for request URL path and there's one for we got here. For print we got here.
Okay, let's see. Hold on. Start over. Go run. I see what you're asking. And run this again. And we hit enter. That's it. Nothing. So we return that time. So the previous time with the / was before we did a return, probably. So that's where you were getting confused.
Oh.
Yeah, so that time we didn't get the forward slash or the we got here because we returned. And maybe I messed up in explaining it.
Okay.
I won't go back and watch this video.
No,
Life's
no,
too
because
short.
then you'll realize next week.
It's what you get for free on YouTube. If you want the real deal, Todd McLeod, Udemy, and then I rewatch the videos before I publish them there, and that's what you pay for. Yeah, when I drink coffee, my heart goes a little fast. All right, so we're doing good. And let's add our returns in. We'll get rid of this. And add our returns in for good practice. All right, what's next? So we have all that working. We need to handle our post, right? When the form submission. And so when the form is submitted, when we go to apply, import and not use font. That's because I didn't fix something. Right there. Cool. When we go to apply, we get our form. Now we want to handle that form submission. Okay?
What happens if you do it right now?
You tell me.
You're gonna get an error, right?
How many people say I'm going to get an error? Because let's look at what happens.
No, it's not gonna do.
Here's apply. Here's the form. I submit it. It's going to apply. Right? So what's it going to do? What's apply do? When I come in at apply, it runs apply, executes, apply. So it'll just take me back to apply. Back at apply.
Oh, right. Okay.
But now I want to handle that.
Okay.
Okay, so here I'm at apply. And I'm not going to execute this template straight off the bat. I got to do a little logic here first. And I need to check the request method. The request is coming in from the client to the server. And the method, when they submit the form, is going to be post. And so request method is equal to HTTP method post. And method post is just a constant for post. I kind of like just putting post, but maybe it's good just to stick with the constants, right? That's maybe more idiomatic. So, and I need my if. If request method is equal to post, then I know the form's been submitted. Every other time it's get. So now I can process the form, right? Does that make sense? And so now what I want to do, I want to get that form value out. So remember Todd talking about it a little bit. And if we go to NetHTTP and we look at the request, type request, we come down and we've got a couple of options here. We have form and post form. Form will give me values that are in the URL or in the form or in the body of the request. Post form will only give me values that are in the body, that are from the form. It won't give me URL values, URL variables, right? So it's only data from the form, and this is from both the URL and the form. But I have to call parse form on each of those first, right? And I remember Todd talking about the request thing has some methods, And one of them is, well, there's parse form if I wanted to call it. But one of them is form value. Gives me a key, takes a key, gives me a string. And we look at form value. Form value. Returns the first value for the name component of the query. Post and put body parameters take precedence over URL. Form value calls parse multi-part form or parse form if necessary. So I'm going to use form value. So I asked for f name, right? And I could just call it f :equals request dot form value. F :equals request dot form value. Takes key f name. Is that what we named it in the form? So that's in apply. It's called f name. So that's going to be the identifier in which the value is being stored, right? Sent in the request. And so that's it. And now we have f, and we want to do something with f. F is a string, and it's going to be whatever the user entered in that field. So what might we want to do with it? I don't know. Let's serve it back. So instead of passing in nil, we could pass in some data here. So we could do first name var f name string, or just first, kind of keep it different because all these same names around don't make sense if you're new. So var first string, and then I have first there, and now I could just pass in first here. I'm just passing in a string. Keep it easy. And so I could go back to my template, apply.gohtml, and I could put here if data and your name is, right? Now I'm not saying your name is first, because all we're passing in is a string. It's not a field name and in a struct. If it's a struct with field names, we'd specify which field name in the struct, and it'd give us the data there, because there's different pieces of data. But this is just one piece of data. It's just a string, so it's just assigned to dot. Dot's the current piece of data, right? So if the current piece of data is a string, then you just put dot, and it gives you that string. If the current piece of data is a struct, then dot, if you just put dot, it gives you the whole struct. But if you put dot and then a field name, it gives you the field name in that struct. Right? So let's run it now.
So is that saying if there's some data there, then
Index about, contact, index, apply. Your name is James Bond. I found the right amount of crazy makes a class more interesting. Don't you agree? It's not crazy. It's actually human. That's one thing I've learned from my kids. Let's play, Dad! And then my son's just like, woohoo! You know? And I'm like, all right, woohoo! You know? And it's like, well, that felt good. Let that energy flow. You can feel it in your body.
yeah, that's why kids are so happy.
They're awesome, right? There's
so
like,
much happier than adults because they can do that.
you can do it too. Get up.
Yay.
There you go. See, we're a little restrained even when we try to do it. But then also, you know, I mean, like kids let themselves go, but then it's also like, I wanted the rock! Ah! You know, it's like, well, come on, it's not the end of the world. They feel everything, you know, just intense. And, you know, we're a little bit jaded, like, yeah, you can go through your whole life not getting what you want. And sometimes you'll get what you want. That's just the game. Been there.
But I guess we're taught from an early age what's that.
So we just went off on a long ass tangent about Ben Affleck and clubs in LA, and I've totally forgot what we were talking about for people in video land. But the next thing which would be interesting to me that I'd like to kind of take a look at, and I've never done this before, but we have the header, and it'd be nice if we could put data here and just have it be title. So how would we do that? For every page to be able to pass in some data to our header that has the title field. That's the interesting thing, okay? So let's look at how we could do that. We're going to need, some sort of a struct, and that struct's going to have to be used by all of these. So I'm going to put it up at the package level, and so I'm going to create. How do I create a struct? What's the first thing I type?
Struct. Type.
Type. And then what?
Struct.
And then what?
Name.
A name. So I'm going to call it just page data maybe. And it's a struct. And then I give it fields. And so one of the fields is going to be a title and it'll be a string. Okay? And then maybe I'll just call it PD. It's a little bit shorter.
No, but what you have it for?
You like page data better? And so here's page data. And then, how would I use that?
Why could you not call it page time?
Because I might have other fields in there
Oh,
and
God.
pass in additional data. So I want to use that right here on this first one before I execute my template. So how do I use that?
Go back up to the other one again.
You need to somehow assign the title to something.
So page data, is that a value that's ready to go?
No.
What is it?
It's kind of like a predetermined type variable.
It's a predetermined type variable. That's about very vague. Be more specific.
Well, it's like
What is type page data?
it's a string. Well,
No.
it's a struct.
Title's a string.
Yeah.
Title is
What's a struct?
It's a structure that contains different fields.
It's a type. We created a type. String's a type. Int's a type. Bool's a type. Struct is a type.
Right.
Page data is a type. Its underlying type is struct. So we now have a type. What do we need? We need a value of a certain type, and we need to assign it to a variable. We need a value.
So
We need a value
title.
of a certain type, and we need to assign it to a variable. There's my variable. Here's my value of a certain type. It's a composite literal, which takes the type, curly braces, and then populate it. And a title is going to be
Title.
index page, right? And if I wanted to, I could do it with the field name, like that. I'm just going to leave that off. Well, let's leave it on, because
Give it a title.
well, I just want to change as we go from page to page to page. So we could see we're on index, we're on about. And I call it index page because I have a lot of index floating around. And then I'm going to pass PD in here, right? And so now I'm just going to take this and put that here and pass PD in here. And this one will be about. Now I'm going to do that here. And this one will be contact. And then I'll do that here. And pass in. Oh, what just happened here? How do I fix this?
Because,
Well, it needs to
oh, right, yeah.
Because now I have first name, and I want to pass in the title and the first name.
Can you do a comma after first or put parentheses around it and add next to the thing you're passing in?
Or could you just copy that whole line again? And
Oh yeah.
could you just do the whole execute template again and then put? And then
You won't
copy
want
it?
to execute it twice though.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to
That's
execute
true.
it
No, I
twice.
don't want to execute it twice. That's true.
So if I wanted to, I could just say, well, hell, this is where all the page data goes in. Okay, and then all these, first name isn't specified, so it's just going to set it equal to its 0 value, which is empty string. But on this one here, I can then say, okay, and if we have first, pd dot first name is equal to f name is equal to first, right? And now I can pass in pd. And then here on apply, it's no longer if that data is there. I want to say if, what did I call it? First name. If first name, your name is first name. All right, cool. That's going to work, I think. And what I need to do for it to go into my header, what I have to do to pass that data to my header, I got to put that period right here. All right, so that entire struct, when I execute this template or ask for that template, pass that entire struct in, and when that struct comes in, that becomes in here that current piece of data, and I can put title there. Feel the hot wind on my shoulder. Feel like I'm heading south the border. I'm on a Mexican radio. I'm on a Mexican, whoa, radio. You gotta listen to that song.
Should your style sheet link be inside your head?
See, we even talked about Stanislav Petrov. If you guys don't know who Stanislav Petrov is, read this, baby. You can pause the video and read it. You should talk about Stanislav. You should know about Stanislav Petrov. He saved your life. There we go. There we go. Pretty cool. Thank you, Stanislav. All right. So now localhost 8080, about, contact, apply, and look at, that didn't look so good. Why isn't my title showing up? Index, about, localhost. I guess that's the title right there. Is that right? That does not seem right. Apply. Now that says index page. And something. And your name is something, index page. Did I not change the, let me see these here. These all say index page. Apply, contact, about, index page, PD. Because I didn't put anything out on the other templates. So I need to open up my other templates. No, I did. That should be in my header right there, title. Oh, I didn't tell them to pass the data. That, apply, that, contact, and index. The details.
Period just tells them to pass the data.
Yeah, well, I'm saying put and give that data to this template. And then that template will have whatever piece of data I pass to it. Did I just start this? Go run main. So now, nice. Index with a very cool Greater Commons logo. About, contact, apply, and Miss Moneypenny. Miss Moneypenny still to apply. Isn't that great? You know, we could even play with that just a little bit more. So the one that I'm interested in playing with is here we have both first name and title, if it's available, and that's at apply. And so in apply, it passes in that. And so we could go to this, and we could say if dot first name, is it a capital F or lowercase f? Capital F. And else, and And so if.firstname, first name will be our thing in the title. Otherwise, we'll do title. All right, so Command S, Control. Now run it. About, I'm watching this, contact, apply, and who should we put in? Moneypenny. Your name is Moneypenny. Moneypenny. Whoa. It's kind of fun. All right, I think that's a point for us to do a little break and hands-on and stop this long video. This video is an hour and 22 minutes.